The water has receded. The only thing that's back to normal.
I mean, you can see the trailers like go right into each other. I mean,
Josh Mullen's family lived in these, what were homes along a creek bank, now mangled shells stuck together by the storm. His brother took these pictures. Timestamps show how fast the flooding happened.
I mean, you had barely time to blink how fast it was. 5 minutes, it just everything gone, and the trailers are going into each other and bank, and yeah.
The just unbelievable amount of water that fell here in this county in such a short period of time.
Judge Executive R.T. Daniel has known this road his entire life.
And you realize, you know, those are, you know, friends, and family members are gone and missing, and people are left with nothing.
The only bright spot in the tragedy, he says, is it wasn't dark.
As bad as it was, you think, well, it could have been worse.
You're shook up.
I am.
It's the last piece they got of memory of whatever there's in their house.
Mullen's family's homes were completely wiped out, but just 50 yards up this hill, those homes were untouched. But Mullen says they had to watch, which was painful enough.
I mean, it probably terrified them.
They've seen a lot there.
They've seen a lot, but they've never seen anything like that. Older people said, I've lived here all my life, I've never seen water like this. We've never had this much water in this creek.
I mean, it's just too heartbreaking. I mean, how could you build something back on something like this?
The Kentucky Department of Environmental Protection says this flood was a once in every 500-year event. But the homes you see should have had a permit from the state to be in a floodplain. The state has no floodplain construction permits for Johnson County.
Like most of rural Kentucky, we don't have planning and zoning in the county.
And for this area, Judge Daniel says it hasn't been an issue anyway.
They've lived there for generations in some cases. Their mom and dad lived there, and that's where they live. And you take a gamble anytime, I guess you're that close to a stream. It can happen, but historically it hadn't.
But now, history has changed.
And I think the people that live out there are going to think twice too before they come back and consider that. But now, you know, when families have lived in an area as long as they have, it's the natural tendency, you know, is to try to go home.
And pick up the pieces to move forward.
But we're resilient too. We'll get back.
Sowing seed like this is typically the end of a lot of hard work, not unusual in the fall. But what happened here 3 months ago was anything but usual. In fact, it was historic.
Oh my God, it's going to hit our house too. Oh, they can't get out. Oh, you know they're scared to death. Oh my God. Oh Lord Jesus, please be with these people in us.
The area we're standing in right now, we would have been completely underwater.
3 months later, you can still see the water line on top of this roof. Willard Burton oversees Johnson County's floodplain management, and right now the focus is on cleaning up the worst flood they'd ever seen.
They use the term historic, things that have never happened in this area. It may never see it again, you know, and it may happen tomorrow.
With hopes that it won't be tomorrow, contractors have made progress in the past few months, cleaning up and cleaning out the creek, burning trash and dumping pieces of memories.
They're living where their parents lived, where their grandparents lived.
Burton says it's not about finances, it's about family.
They have one of two options. They rebuild where they're at, meet the requirements of the ordinance, or they look to purchase property somewhere else.
County officials say it is okay to rebuild in a flood zone as long as you follow county ordinances, one being that your living space has to be so far off the ground like this home right here. Interesting though, just a few months ago, this trailer park was full of homes, and so far only 2 have returned.
The people are more educated now. It's sad to say, but it took something like this. People, the number of phone calls that I get, wanting to know information, wanting to know if they're in a flood zone because they've never worried about it before.
Not prompted, we're told, by this flood, but a new flood zone map was just released last month. These maps, we're told, take years to make. Burton says the last one they had to go by was made in the 80s.
The new maps have aerial photos overlaid onto them, so you can actually look at the floodplain map and look at the flood zone, and you can actually pick out homes, trees, roads, intersections.
Were people pushing the envelope before the flood, living in a flood zone and not following the ordinances?
There are probably a few people out there that they inherited the place from their mom and dad, they inherited it from their parents, and it ends up being in a flood zone even prior to the time, being built prior to the time that there was even a flood map.
He says it's different here now. The neighborhoods that dotted this street are quiet, and he thinks even though ordinances here make exceptions for floodplains, what happened here in July was too much to start over for most.
Will most stay and rebuild? Are they rebuilding? Where are we?
In just my opinion, in talking, I think that most won't. Most of them have cleaned up their lot, and that's all they've done.